the storm had arrived without warning, an avalanche of wind and ice roaring down from the northern ridge like a living thing. By dusk, the Sawtooth Mountains were no longer mountains at all, but ghostly silhouettes swallowed by white. Old rangers who had spent their entire careers reading the moods of winter said they had never seen anything like it. Even the radios crackled with uneasy static, as if the mountain itself refused to speak. Snow hammered the slopes so hard it felt like the sky was breaking apart. Temperatures plunged so fast that the needles of the pines froze mid-sway, their branches locked in place like brittle ribs of an ancient creature caught mid-death. Deep in the valley, the wind howled in pitches that didn't sound natural. It screeched, then dipped, then rose again, like something alive was trapped inside it. The blizzard erased every footprint, every trail, every whisper of life. Only one thing remains certain: no creature should have been wandering out here tonight. Not elk, not wolf, not even the hardiest mountain goat. Certainly not anything young. And yet, hidden beneath the roar of the storm, there was a faint, thin sound so fragile it almost didn't exist at all. At first, most would have dismissed it as noise, just another twist of the wind, but the microphones of the ranger station picked it up at the exact same moment Emma Brooks did. She had paused with her hand hovering over the kettle, brow furrowed. Emma had been in these mountains for 23 years. She knew the vocabulary of storms, the groan of trees, the snap of branches, the low rumble of shifting ice. But this sounded like something trying to cry, only to be smothered by the cold. She turned up the volume on the monitor, again muffled, trembling, barely there, a sound that didn't match any known animal in this region, especially in this weather. Emma leaned forward, gripping the edge of the desk. "What in the world could be alive out there right now?" she whispered. Outside, the sky cracked with another gust, sending a sheet of icy powder tumbling down the ridge. The mountains responded with a deep groan that made even veteran hikers feel small. Overnight travel advisories had been broadcast repeatedly, warning locals to stay indoors, check their home security systems, keep emergency kits ready, and avoid any attempt to drive. Emma had even reminded viewers on the Morning Weather Channel to check their travel insurance if they were planning holiday trips, because this storm wasn't the kind you escape easily. She wasn't supposed to leave the station during conditions like this. Protocol was clear, but the sound, that sound kept repeating, faint but persistent, as if fighting to stay alive. Emma scribbled a note in her log. Unidentified distress vocalization. Possible injured animal. Location uncertain due to wind distortion.
She hesitated. A younger ranger might have dismissed it, but Emma had learned something over the years. Sometimes the mountains call to you, and ignoring them can mean a life lost. She grabbed her binoculars and stepped to the window. Nothing but furious white. Far above her, on a narrow ledge near the timberline, a lone shadow moved, soft, small, and determined. Willow, the mountain lynx, known by a few hikers as the ghost on pause, squeezed against the wind as it slammed against her thin frame. Her thick silver coat whipped violently, but she continued pushing forward, ears flattened, whiskers trembling. Lynxes didn't venture out during storms like this unless driven by hunger or fear. But Willow wasn't hungry, and fear had not guided her in a very long time. Something else had stirred her from her den, something she couldn't ignore, no matter how the storm screamed at her to turn back. She heard it again, the faintest whimper carried on the wind, a sound so vulnerable it tugged at parts of her she thought had died 2 winters ago. Willow paused, her pupils narrowing into thin slits as she strained to locate the source. Snow blasted into her face, clinging to the fur around her eyes, but she didn't blink. Another cry, weak, trembling, near collapse. She lowered her head and kept moving, paws sinking deep into powder that swallowed her up to the chest. Every step cost her precious warmth, but she pressed on with a silent determination that made the storm seem almost small beside her. Back in the ranger station, Emma adjusted the audio again. The cry fluttered in her headphones. She exhaled shakily, heart tight. Someone needs help out there. Something. As another gust slammed against the windows, she took a moment to address viewers on the station's emergency live stream. "If you're tuning in from home," she said softly, "this storm is far from ordinary. Please stay indoors, keep yourself safe, and if you enjoy these mountain updates, don't forget to subscribe to Whispering Hearts. Your support helps us share stories of the wildlife we protect, stories that matter, especially nights like this." She clicked off the broadcast. Outside, Willow emerged onto an exposed slope. The cry came again, but weaker than before. She froze. The sound wasn't the wind. It wasn't the snow. It was something small, dying. And she was the only creature alive in this storm who had heard it.
The storm had not eased by morning. If anything, it seemed to have grown teeth overnight, biting into the mountains with a deeper, more merciless cold. Snow piled against the ridges in uneven waves, as if the wind were sculpting the whole wilderness into something harsh and unfamiliar. Down in the valley, the trees groaned under the weight, branches hanging like tired shoulders bracing for another blow. And yet somewhere above the tree line, a single set of paw prints carved a faint, fragile path across the blank white. They belonged to Willow. She moved quietly despite the chaos, slipping through drifts with a grace that only a lynx could possess. Her silver coat blended into the storm's palette, soft gray, pale white, muted charcoal, making her look less like an animal and more like a whisper on legs. Every few steps, she paused to listen, her tufted ears rotating like small weather vanes catching hidden information. Most predators would have taken shelter at the first growl of the storm, but Willow moved with a purpose that defied instinct. Her den wasn't far, a shallow rock alcove tucked against a granite wall, sheltered by fallen pine branches she dragged there herself. It wasn't large, but it was warm enough for her, and once, long ago, it had been warm enough for two. Willow slipped inside and shook the snow from her coat. The moment she settled into the back corner, where the wind couldn't reach, her eyes drifted to a spot near the wall. The memory lived there, quiet but sharp. This den had once held the soft scent of her own kitten, a small ball of spotted fur who used to curl into her side, purring with the kind of trust that made the world feel safe. Before the trap, before the blood on the snow, before she learned that humans didn't always walk the mountains with kindness. Even now, 2 years later, Willow sometimes pressed her nose to that cold patch of stone. The scent was long gone, but her memory filled in the missing pieces. Tonight, she avoided the spot. The storm, the strange cry she'd heard, everything churned inside her until she couldn't sit still. Something was pulling at her, tugging with the same invisible thread she had followed the night her own kitten needed her. Except now, it wasn't familiar. It wasn't hers. She stepped back out into the blinding white. The wind slammed into her immediately, flattening her whiskers against her cheeks. Willow blinked through it and crept along the ridge. A sharp scent cut through the cold, something she didn't expect. She lowered her head, nose nearly touching the snow as she sniffed the faint strand of air. Not rabbit, not deer, not fox. Lion. Her ears shot upright. Lions didn't belong in these mountains.
They followed the plains, the warmer valleys, the wide open spaces of distant reserves. But the scent was unmistakable, young, frightened, and fading fast. She moved again, faster this time. A gust shoved her sideways, but she dug her claws in and kept going. Each step scraped against the ache in her chest, the place where grief lived, but she didn't slow down. Willow had never ignored the mountains when they called to her, and this felt like the mountains shouting. Another scent joined the first, faint paw prints of a species she knew far too well: wolves. The sharp tang of predators circling something weak. Willow's pulse quickened. She wasn't large enough to fight a wolf pack, not even close, but she knew how to outthink them, how to loop through the trees and vanish into rocks they couldn't navigate. She lifted her head and scanned the ridge. Snow whipped past, but there, just barely, she spotted a smear of golden fur half buried beneath drifting powder. A tuft, hardly more than a breath of color, but bright enough to pierce the white. She crept closer, heart pounding. Lion fur. Confirmed. Willow sniffed again. Newer. Fresher. And leading toward a small outcropping where the wind had carved a narrow path. Her muscles tightened. She had wandered this area dozens of times. She knew every curve, every stone, every hidden hollow. And yet she had never smelled lion here. Something was deeply wrong. She crouched, tail low, body suspended in the eerie stillness before a leap. The storm roared around her, cold burrowing into her bones. But the thread pulling at her, whatever it was, didn't let go. She followed the scent trail to the edge of a slope where the snow had collapsed into a shallow drift. That same faint cry, barely more than a tremble, echoed from somewhere below the surface. The lynx's breath hitched. For a moment, she stood absolutely still, her body carved against the storm like a small statue, frozen between instinct and memory. She wasn't supposed to help. This wasn't her kitten. This wasn't even her species. Lions grew large, strong, and capable of killing lynxes with a single blow. But the cry came again, so faint, she almost missed it. Something deep inside her cracked. Willow stepped forward. Beneath her paws, the snow shifted, holding a life she had no reason to protect, yet every reason in her heart to save.
The wind eased for only a moment, just long enough for Willow to hear the small, broken sound again. It trembled through the air like a breath caught halfway, too faint to belong to any healthy creature. She lowered her body, pressing her weight into the snow as she inched closer to the collapsed drift. The scent of lion cub was stronger now, sharp with fear, warm beneath the frost, and thinning far too fast. The cold was swallowing it, piece by piece. Willow dug her front paws gently into the slope, testing its stability. The snow groaned beneath her weight, threatening to shift. A slide here would bury whatever lay under the surface. She backed up, circled, and approached from a different angle, pawing softly until she found a firmer patch. The faint cry came again, no longer a sound really, but more like the memory of one, a whisper trying to stay alive. She dug, slowly at first, then faster as her claws struck something warmer than snow. Her heart thudded. She scraped the powder away and uncovered a tuft of golden fur, so small it barely filled the space between her paws. The cub was curled into itself, head tucked under its body, legs rigid from the cold. Its tiny chest rose in shallow, uneven breaths. A lion cub this young had no business being alone, especially not in a storm like this. Willow sensed it immediately. This cub had been separated from its pride. She sniffed the air again, searching for any trace of other lions. Nothing. Only the stale scent of fear,
the metallic tang of old blood, and her ears twitched sharply. Wolf tracks, fresh ones. They wove around the drift in tight circles before trailing off into the tree line. Wolves had been here, likely the same pack that had spread across this region the past month. They hunted efficiently in storms, using the chaos as cover. If they'd struck a lion pride, this cub might have been the only survivor. Willow stepped between the cub and the direction of the tracks, her body instinctively shielding the tiny form. Though she couldn't smell wolves nearby now, the mountain had a way of hiding danger behind the next bend. She nudged the cub gently with her nose. Its body was cold, too cold, the kind of cold that didn't forgive hesitation. The cub's eyelids fluttered weakly. A faint whimper escaped its throat, more vibration than sound. Willow froze. Something inside her, an instinct she thought had died, pushed to the surface like a small flame gasping for air.
Her kitten had sounded just like that the last day she'd held him. She lowered her head and nudged the cub again, this time more firmly. The small body trembled. It wasn't enough. The storm would take him within minutes if she didn't act. Willow knew that with a certainty as sharp as the cold biting into her own paws. She hooked her teeth gently into the loose skin at the cub's neck. The moment she lifted him, he let out a tiny yelp, weak, frightened, but alive. Willow's breath hitched. She adjusted her grip, making sure not to press too hard. Despite the storm screaming around her, the world seemed to narrow to one fragile heartbeat against her tongue. She stepped backward carefully, keeping the cub tucked close to her chest. But just as she turned toward her den, a smell drifted past on the wind, musky, heavy, unmistakable. Wolves. Not old tracks, fresh scent. Her muscles stiffened. She scanned the white void around her. In the far distance, just a flicker through the storm, she saw movement. Gray shapes weaving between trees, moving with purpose. They hadn't seen her yet, but they were following the trail of the cub's pride, sniffing for stragglers. Willow's paws sank deeper into the snow. She had only seconds to decide. If she ran toward her den, she might lead the wolves straight to the cub. If she stayed, they would find her eventually. If she dropped the cub, she didn't even consider it. She tightened her grip and slipped sideways, moving parallel to the ridge instead of straight down. The lynx's strength wasn't in fighting, it was in knowing how to disappear. She made no sound, leaving barely a mark as she threaded between boulders and ducked beneath heavy pine branches weighed down with ice. Her tail brushed the cub gently, keeping him tucked close against her chest to share what little warmth she could. Another faint cry brushed her ear. It was softer than before, almost a breath. Willow quickened her pace. She took the long way around, weaving a path wolves wouldn't expect, looping back and forth to scatter her scent. It was a technique she had used when avoiding humans in the past, and wolves were far less observant than men with rifles. The wind roared again, drowning out any trace of the wolves behind her. She wouldn't know if they had followed the wrong path until she reached the safety of her den. But for the first time in a long time, her heart wasn't thinking of wolves, traps, or hunters. It was thinking only of the small life shivering in her jaw. She paused under a rock outcropping, snow swirling around her like ash. The cub was barely conscious now. His breaths came out as thin clicks. She leaned down and pressed her body around him for a moment, sharing heat, shielding him from the storm while she caught her breath. A lion cub, alone, in a blizzard, in the mountains where no lion should ever be. She didn't know why he was here. She didn't know why fate had placed him in her path, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The cry she had heard last night led her to a life that would not survive without her. Willow lifted him gently once more, stepped out into the screaming white, and headed toward her den. She did not look back. She did not need to. The mountains had already made their choice for her.
Willow reached the mouth of her den just as another gust of wind hurled a wall of snow against the mountainside. The force of it nearly pushed her backward, but she braced herself and slipped inside, keeping the tiny lion cub tucked firmly in her jaws. Once sheltered beneath the low granite ceiling, she set him gently onto the bed of dried pine needles she had gathered before the storm. The cub didn't move, only shivered in small, weakening spasms that tightened something deep inside her chest. She circled him once, twice, lowering her head to inspect every inch of his fragile body. His fur, damp from the snow, clung in uneven clumps. His whiskers were stiff with frost, and his paws, far too big for his tiny frame, were ice cold. Willow pressed her nose against his cheek. Beneath the sharp chill, she felt the faintest breath brush her whiskers. He was still alive, but barely. The lynx settled beside him, curling her body into a crescent that curved protectively around his small shape. She lowered her chest against his side, letting her warmth seep into him. His trembling slowed, but only slightly. A low, instinctive hum vibrated in Willow's throat, the same soft sound she had once used to soothe her own kitten. The moment it rose from her chest, emotion stabbed her so sharply she froze. She hadn't made that sound in 2 years. The cub stirred, just a twitch, but it was enough. Willow pressed closer, licking gently at the frost caught in his fur. Her tongue worked carefully, warming each patch of his coat with steady, rhythmic strokes. She moved from his head down to his back, then to his tail, then his paws, the places where cold claimed life the quickest. The cub whimpered at the touch, a thin, broken noise that echoed faintly in the stone chamber. Willow's ears twitched. She lifted his paw between her teeth, warming it with small breaths. He let out another sound, higher this time, almost like a plea. Something old and painful unfurled inside her. Her kitten had cried like that the night before the trap. She closed her eyes, forcing the memory away. The past could not help her now, but the instinct that had once defined her, once taught her how to be gentle and fierce in the same breath, rose through her like a forgotten river breaking free of winter ice. This cub was not hers. He wasn't even her kind. But the fear in his tiny body lit a spark she couldn't ignore. Willow rose and padded toward the entrance. She poked her head out, ears flicking as she listened for wolves. The wind swallowed every sound, which was both a blessing and a warning. Wolves could be close, their tracks erased by snowfall. She stepped outside just far enough to gather what she needed: bits of pine needles, dried moss, a half-chewed branch of juniper whose scent helped calm frightened animals. She carried the bedding inside and arranged it around the cub, building a nest to trap heat. The lion cub's breathing hitched, then slowed, then hitched again. Willow froze. His eyes fluttered open, just barely, and she saw the faintest glimmer of gold beneath the snow-rimmed lashes. He blinked, pupils unfocused, staring toward her without truly seeing her. His mouth parted, releasing a tiny hoarse mule. Not a roar, not even a growl. A plea. She placed her forehead softly against his. The cub's shivers eased, but only for a moment. His body had grown too cold. Simply warming him wasn't enough. Willow stepped back, pacing. The den felt smaller now, the air thinner. She knew what she had to do, though the knowledge twisted in her gut. He needed food. Not tomorrow, not an hour from now. Now. A cub of his size couldn't survive long without strength, and he had none left. Willow scanned the walls of her den, searching for any scrap she had saved. Nothing. The last rabbit she'd caught had been days ago. She hadn't expected to share it with a creature who required 3 times the nourishment she did. Her gaze returned to the cub.
His breaths rattled like brittle leaves caught under a boot. She had no time for hesitation. Willow turned and darted back into the storm. Outside, the world was a churning white void. Snow sliced sideways across her vision, forcing her to lower her head as she moved. But she ran anyway, paws punching deep into the powder. The lynx wasn't built for speed like a wolf or stamina like a mountain cat, but she had agility. And right now, that was enough. She leapt from rock to rock, zigzagging between trees until she reached a small clearing she had used for hunting many times before. Normally, she would approach slowly, calculating wind direction, adjusting her steps with patience. But patience was a luxury she didn't have. She dropped low. A snowshoe hare darted from beneath a fallen log, startled by her sudden arrival. Willow lunged. Her paws sliced through the snow, body propelled by a desperate urgency she couldn't recall feeling since the night her kitten had been trapped. The hare zigged right. She cut left, predicting its movement. Another leap, a flash of claws, and the hare fell still beneath her weight. Willow didn't eat, didn't taste, didn't pause. She clamped the hare between her teeth and sprinted back through the trees, her lungs burning from the cold. Snow caked her legs. Her whiskers froze, but she didn't slow, not until she reached the den and slipped inside, dropping the hare beside the cub. He didn't move. She tore into the hare with surgical precision, shredding the meat into tiny, soft pieces. Then, with a deep breath, she did something no lynx should have needed to do, something learned only through loss, need, and memory. She chewed the meat and pressed it gently to the cub's mouth. For a moment, nothing happened. He lay motionless, breath faint, body limp. Willow nudged the meat again, letting the scent touch his nose. A twitch. Then another. His mouth parted weakly, just enough for her to guide a small morsel in. He swallowed by reflex, barely lifting his head, but it was enough. Willow repeated the process, chewing, softening, warming, feeding, until the cub's breaths grew steadier, less fragile. Only then did she settle beside him again, curling her body protectively around his small, trembling frame. She rested her chin near his shoulder, listening to the faint rhythm of his breathing. It was still too weak, still too slow, but it was there. Alive. For the first time in years, Willow let her eyes close, not in sleep, but in something closer to fragile relief. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside the den, a lion cub took one more breath than he had a moment before. And Willow, who thought motherhood had died with her own kitten, felt something old and fierce awaken inside her chest.
By the time the storm loosened its grip on the mountains, the den had grown warmer, just enough for the thin threads of hope Willow had spun through the night to hold together. The lion cub lay nestled in the shallow nest she had built, his breaths steadier now, no longer clipped and fragile. Dawn filtered dimly into the entrance, a pale, cold light that revealed the first hints of soft gold beneath the frost that had once threatened his life. Willow watched him with quiet intensity. She had not slept. Lynxes rarely slept deeply during storms, but this time exhaustion had nothing to do with the weather. She had spent hours curled around him, warming him, nudging him, feeding him, fighting off the creeping stillness that had nearly claimed him.
Each time his tiny body trembled, her heartbeat skipped. Each time his breathing steadied, a little of her own fear released. When he finally stirred with something more than reflex, Willow lifted her head. The cub blinked slowly, the world coming into focus in small, confused pieces. His eyes, pale gold, flecked with a faint brown, opened wider as he took in the unfamiliar shape beside him. Willow remained still, body relaxed but vigilant, letting him study her at his own fragile pace. He tried to lift his head. It wobbled, then dropped. A soft squeak escaped him. Willow leaned forward, nudging him gently, encouraging him to try again. He made a second attempt, legs twitching beneath him as though he'd forgotten what they were for. This time he managed to sit halfway before collapsing into the pine needles. A faint tremble shook his body, not from cold now, but weakness. He needed a name. Willow sniffed him again, letting his scent settle into her memory. Something about the tiny broken sounds he made echoed like a whisper through the den, a soft, breathy kai, kai, as he exhaled. The lynx lowered her head and traced her tongue once along his tiny ear. Kai. It fit him, small, trembling, but still trying. The cub let out a tiny sigh, a fragile flutter of air that barely disturbed the fur on his chest. Willow shifted closer, pressing her warmth against him again. His head thumped against her front leg, uncoordinated but deliberate. The gesture, small as it was, sent a ripple of something old and tender through her. He trusted her, already, despite the strangeness of it, despite everything his instincts should have told him. Willow rose and padded to the remains of the hare she had caught hours before. She tore off another piece, chewing until it softened. When she nudged the morsel toward Kai, his nose twitched. His mouth opened hesitantly, and Willow eased the meat between his lips. He swallowed with a small, desperate hunger that made her chest ache. She repeated the process, slow and patient, until his small belly pressed slightly against his ribs instead of sinking inward. When he finished, his head grew heavy, drooping until it rested against her foreleg. Willow curled around him without thinking, her body completing the gesture long before her mind finished processing it. Only then did she notice something strange. A faint discoloration clung to his fur, dried blood but not his. She lowered her head and sniffed. Wolf scent threaded through the smell, faint but unmistakable. It wasn't a fresh wound, it wasn't even his scent. It was the scent of another lion, adult, heavy, powerful. And mingled with it, the muddy musk of wolves circling prey. A pride had passed through here. Migrating? Lost? Or fleeing something? Willow's ears flattened. Lions did not belong in the Sawtooths. If they were here, something had pushed them far from home, and something had scattered them. Kai's small body jerked in his sleep, legs twitching as though he were running from something in a dream. Willow pressed a paw lightly against him, calming the tremble. He settled, breath softening again. Outside, the storm continued to drift, quieter now, but still thick with danger. Willow stepped to the den's entrance and peered out. Snow drifted down in lazy flakes, a sharp contrast to the violent chaos of the night before. The landscape was quiet in that deceptive way the mountains often were, silent not because danger had passed, but because danger waited. She scanned the ridge for movement. Nothing. Not yet. But she scented the air again, nostrils flaring. The wind carried faint traces of wolves moving through the lower trees, scattered, searching, unsettled. They were not hunting her, not yet. But their interest in the lion pride was clear, and where wolves searched, they searched methodically. If they had followed Kai's scent this far, they would eventually pick up her trail too. Willow returned to the cub, settling beside him again. His small body was warm now, warmer than before. He stirred and opened his eyes again, blinking up at her. His gaze lingered, curious, confused, oddly calm. Willow lowered her head until their foreheads touched. His tiny nose nudged her in return, and something inside her quietly unwound. This cub had no mother, no pride, no warmth except what she gave him. He shouldn't be alive. And yet, he was, because she had heard him. Willow settled herself around him once more, letting his breath rise and fall against her fur. The den felt different now, not just a shelter from the storm, but a fragile sanctuary holding a life that did not belong to this mountain, yet somehow belonged to her. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying with it the distant echo of something low, mournful, and familiar. Wolves calling to one another. Willow's ears twitched, but she didn't move. Not tonight. Tonight, she kept the cub close. Tomorrow, she would protect him from whatever came.
By late morning, the storm had weakened into a gentle flurry that drifted across the mountains like scattered ash. The worst had passed, but the Sawtooths were far from safe. The fresh snow revealed everything that had moved through the night: new tracks, broken branches, and trails disturbed by predators who used storms as cover. To most eyes, it was just a white wilderness, but to Ranger Emma Brooks, it was a map of every secret the mountain was trying to tell. Emma trudged through the knee-deep snow, breath fogging the air, her wool hat pulled low against the chill. She had left the ranger station reluctantly, knowing she wasn't supposed to patrol until the storm fully cleared. But the strange cry she'd recorded during the night wouldn't leave her mind. And now, standing in the quiet aftermath, she was certain something unusual had happened, something she couldn't ignore. She raised her binoculars and scanned the slope above her. Nothing but swirls of white and the occasional dark smudge of a boulder. She lowered the lenses and started forward again, her boots crunching rhythmically. Only a few minutes passed before she found the first tracks. A delicate set of paw prints, round, spaced lightly, weaving between rocks with the unmistakable pattern of a lynx. Willow. Emma recognized the signs instantly. The lynx had passed through this area many times over the years, a shy presence, rarely seen by humans, but well known through tracks and camera footage. Emma had always admired how quietly the animal moved, leaving almost nothing behind but these ghost-like traces. She followed the trail, head down, focusing on every detail. But then she froze. A second set of prints joined the first, smaller, uneven, unsteady. Emma knelt, brushing snow from the indentation and inspecting it with practiced eyes. Her heart skipped. "A cub?" she murmured. But something about it was wrong. It was too large for a bobcat, too round for a fox, and too soft at the edges for a wolf pup. She brushed more snow away, revealing a shape she hadn't expected to see anywhere near these mountains. Good Lord, that's feline, but not lynx. She stood and took a step back, scanning the area with a sudden unease. Willow's tracks pressed deeper into the snow, meaning she'd been carrying something. The thought made her swallow hard. A lynx carrying a cub that wasn't her own? Impossible, yet the evidence lay right at her feet. She continued along the trail, curiosity battling protocol. The trails led her across a narrow ridge and down into a small clearing where the snow had been disturbed by a frantic struggle, scuffs, scattered powder, and several deep impressions where something had been dragged. Emma crouched again. Blood. Only a few drops, but fresh. And then another scent hit the air, one she recognized instantly. She lifted her head sharply. Wolves. Their tracks dotted the clearing in a loose formation, circling the area before trailing downhill. Her pulse quickened. A cub, a lynx, wolves. None of it made sense. Predators didn't mix like this unless something had gone very wrong. She raised her binoculars again and scanned the distant trees. For a split second, a shadow moved near the pines, tall, upright, human. But when she focused, the figure was gone. A chill slid down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Poachers.
She knew their patterns, knew the way they slipped through protected land during storms, betting on poor visibility and overwhelmed patrol units. Emma had spent years working to keep the Sawtooths safe from those who hunted illegally, men who didn't care about seasons, species, or suffering. She stepped backward, heart thumping. If poachers had struck a migrating lion pride, that would explain the tracks. It would explain the blood, and it might explain why a cub had been left behind in the storm. She exhaled slowly and reached into her pack, pulling out a compact trail camera. She clipped it to a branch overlooking the clearing, adjusting the angle until it covered the area where the struggle had taken place. She placed 2 more cameras along the ridge, each pointed toward the direction the tracks led. When she finished, the mountains seemed to grow quieter, as if waiting. "Whatever happened out here," she whispered, "the cameras will show us." Hours later, back at the station, Emma connected the first memory card to her laptop. The grainy footage loaded slowly, flickering through empty tree lines and drifting snow. Then something appeared on the screen. Willow. The lynx stepped through the frame, her body low, her gait careful. In her jaws hung a small, limp form, golden fur, too large to be her own species, too fragile to walk. Emma leaned closer, blinking hard. A lion cub! My God! The lynx lowered herself beside the cub, curling protectively around him. She groomed his fur, warmed him, checked him the way a mother would check her own young. The scene was impossibly gentle, heartbreakingly tender. Emma covered her mouth with her hand, stunned. In all her years working with wildlife, she'd seen surprising bonds. But this defied everything she knew. She clicked to the next clip. A flicker, movement in the far distance, a human silhouette, slowly approaching the area where Willow had been. Emma's heart dropped. Poacher. The figure didn't come close enough to appear clearly, but the shape was wrong for a ranger. Broader, heavier clothing, moving low as if stalking instead of patrolling. Emma sat back, her jaw tightening. The lynx and the cub weren't only battling the cold, they were caught between wolves searching the valley and poachers slipping through the trees. She turned off the monitor and stared at the frozen window pane, the storm still whispering outside. Somewhere up in those mountains, a lynx was sheltering a lion cub who shouldn't even exist this far north. And somewhere else, danger, human danger, was closing in. Emma reached for her radio, thumb hovering over the transmit button, then stopped. The mountain had its own rhythm, its own way of telling her when to intervene. And right now, it hadn't told her to act. Not yet. Instead, she whispered, "Hold on, little one, and hold on, Willow, because whatever may ahead for lynx, lion, wolf, or human, it was only beginning."
By the time the storm had fully cleared, the mountains had settled into a silence so fragile it felt as if the entire wilderness was holding its breath. The sky opened into a crisp, pale blue, and sunlight spilled across the ridges, turning the snow into a sheet of glittering white. Inside the den, however, Willow's world was much smaller, just wide enough for her, the lion cub pressed against her side, and the faint warmth they shared. Kai had grown stronger over the past 2 days, Strength came slowly at first, like a tide trying to return to a shore it barely remembered. But with every meal Willow softened and fed him, every hour of warmth she offered, his breaths grew deeper, steadier. His legs, once limp and unresponsive, now twitched with a restless energy that spoke of returning life. That morning, as Willow stretched her limbs and prepared to leave for a brief hunt, Kai lifted his head and blinked at her with eyes far clearer than before. When she moved toward the entrance, he attempted to follow, but his paws tangled beneath him, sending him tumbling into the pine needles in a clumsy heap. Willow paused, her whiskers flicking. He tried again, and again. By the third attempt, he managed to stand on all fours, swaying slightly, but upright. Willow approached him, nudged his shoulder, and stepped back, guiding him gently. It was not the way a lion cub should learn to walk, not flanked by siblings, not encouraged by a watchful lioness. But Kai didn't know that. He watched Willow, copying her every movement with a determination both endearing and heartbreaking. She stepped outside. He followed. The sunlight made him squint, and the cold air shocked him enough that he let out a tiny noise of surprise. Willow lowered her head, waiting until he steadied himself. Then she moved forward, slow and careful, her paws carving soft impressions into the snow. Kai stepped into her tracks. His paws were far larger than hers, awkward, oversized, built for a different life. But he placed them where she had placed hers, mimicking her light steps with all the concentration his small body could muster. Willow paused every few strides to check on him. He trudged on, often stumbling, often slipping, but never stopping. They didn't go far, not today. Just to the edge of a cluster of pines where the wind was gentle and the snow shallow. Willow crouched low, nose to the ground. Kai watched her, tilting his head as she pressed her weight forward and froze, ears pricked. When she leapt suddenly toward a mound of snow, Kai jumped too, far too enthusiastically. Willow landed cleanly. Kai landed face first, sending a puff of snow exploding around him. He sat up, blinking through the white powder clinging to his whiskers. Willow approached, nudging him lightly in what could only be described as a scolding of sorts. Kai let out an indignant squeak, swatting at her ear with a clumsy paw. Willow swatted back, gentle but firm. It was the kind of moment that would have happened naturally between a lioness and her cub. But here, in this strange pairing, it felt like two worlds trying to meet in the middle.
Kai continued imitating her movements. When Willow crouched low to stalk a vole beneath the snow, Kai did too, though his hindquarters stuck up awkwardly, ruining any semblance of stealth. When Willow stepped silently, Kai tried, but the snow beneath him compressed with loud, uneven crunches. When Willow froze, Kai froze, then, impatient, wiggled slightly before crashing forward again. It was comical, sweet, and quietly tragic. He was a lion trying to learn the lessons of a lynx. Every mistake he made was a reminder of the future he didn't yet know awaited him, a future where he would need instincts Willow could never fully teach. Still, she tried. When he grew tired, Willow herded him back to the den, nudging him gently up the final slope. He curled into the nest she'd made, breathing hard, but with a spark of pride in his eyes. Willow cleansed the snow from his fur with slow, patient strokes, listening to the soft, purring hum he made, a sound unexpectedly feline, unexpectedly tender. As afternoon stretched across the mountains, Willow stepped outside again. She had no intention of leaving him alone for long, but she needed to hunt.
The cub's appetite had grown quickly now that his strength was returning. She moved purposefully across the snow, her muscles tightening with every sound, every shift of wind. It was during this hunt that she sensed it. A rustle, a shape, a scent she knew far too well. Another lynx. She froze beneath the shadow of a spruce tree. From farther down the ridge, a large male lynx emerged, his fur tipped with frost, his eyes sharp and territorial. He hadn't seen her yet, but she saw the tension in his shoulders, the way he scanned the ridge for intruders. A male at the wrong time could mean danger, especially if he sensed a cub nearby. Willow slid behind the tree, lowering her body until she became only another shape in the snow. The male sniffed the air, picking up her scent and Kai's. His ears pricked sharply. Willow's heartbeat thudded painfully. She knew what happened when a male lynx encountered young not his own. Nature was cruel, and males often drove away or killed unrelated kittens to establish breeding control. And Kai, fragile as he was, would stand no chance under a male's wrath. Willow stepped backward, silent, calculated. She couldn't fight him, not directly, but she could draw him away. Her paws pressed lightly into the snow as she circled wide, dragging her scent along a deliberate arc away from the den. The male followed, nose twitching with rising curiosity. Willow remained just beyond his line of sight, leading him farther and farther away until her tracks converged with the scent of deer farther down the valley. The male paused. The stronger scent of prey overtook his attention. With a low chuff, he slipped into the trees, abandoning the trail Willow had left. Only then did she allow herself to breathe. She returned to the den as quickly as her paws could carry her. Kai greeted her with a sleepy chirp, unaware of the danger that had passed so close. Willow pressed her forehead gently against his, letting his warmth soothe the lingering tremor in her chest. Kai wasn't just learning how to walk and hunt like a lynx. Willow was learning how to protect him like one. And out in the trees beyond, unseen and dangerous, wolves and poachers were still prowling the mountains. But none of that mattered at this moment. In the small shelter of the den, a lion cub slept against a lynx who had already risked more than instinct should allow. And tomorrow, he would learn more, run more, grow more. But tonight, he simply breathed, safe, for now, because Willow had made it so.
The mountains had thawed just enough for the first drips of melting snow to tap softly against the stone outside Willow's den. It was the kind of morning that looked peaceful, sunlight resting gently on the ridges, the forest holding its breath in a deceptive calm. But Willow felt the truth beneath that quiet. The world around her had shifted. The air carried new scents, sharper than wind and colder than snow. Danger had stepped into the mountains. Kai woke slowly, blinking at the light filtering into the den. Over the past few days, he had grown steadier on his paws, his steps less clumsy, his voice less fragile. He lifted his head when Willow approached, greeting him with that tiny questioning chirp he made only for her. She nudged him gently and stepped outside, expecting him to follow. He did, running this time, tripping once but catching himself, puffing clouds of warm breath into the cold air. Willow watched him quietly, noting how size was beginning to show in his frame. His legs were longer now, heavier. His paws pressed deeper into the snow. He wasn't just recovering, he was growing. They moved along the ridge together, Willow teaching as always. She showed him how to test the wind, how to lower his body until his outline disappeared into the rocks, how to place each step with intention instead of impatience. Kai imitated her faithfully, turning every lesson into a small, clumsy dance of effort and enthusiasm.
But this morning, Willow's focus kept drifting away from him. She lifted her head often, ears twitching at sounds too distant for Kai to perceive. An unnatural rhythm of crunching snow, the faint clink of metal against metal, and something else far more unsettling, the deep silence that followed when predators sensed they were being watched. Kai didn't notice any of it. He found a fallen pine branch and gnawed on it proudly, tail swishing with the unguarded joy of a young creature who believed the world was simple and safe. Willow stepped closer, brushing her tail along his back, guiding him to stay near her, but her eyes, sharp and amber, scanned the tree line again. Then she froze. A shape moved between the pines, slow, careful, deliberate. A human silhouette. Not close enough to see her, but close enough to know they were tracking something. The figure paused, crouched, examined the snow, then adjusted the strap of a rifle slung across their back. Poacher. The scent she had caught days before had returned. Willow lowered her body, muscles tightening. She shifted her weight in front of Kai, blocking him from view. The cub blinked up at her, confused but obedient when her tail swept against his flank, signaling him to stay still. The man moved deeper into the trees, scanning the ridge with the practiced eyes of someone who'd hunted animals far larger than a lynx or a cub. Willow recognized the posture, predatory, patient. He wasn't just exploring the mountains. He was searching.
Willow shifted backward, urging Kai toward the den. The cub followed, though slower this time, his movements puzzled. When he stumbled over a rock, Willow nudged him firmly, not allowing hesitation. Her instincts flared, old and fierce, telling her that this wasn't a wolf she could outmaneuver. A wolf followed hunger. A poacher followed opportunity. They slipped back inside the den, and Willow pressed Kai into the deepest corner where the shadows were thickest. She covered him with her tail and lowered her head until her whiskers brushed his small, trembling cheek. Kai curled into her without question. Seconds stretched. The forest outside held unnerving stillness. Then, a low howl echoed from the valley. Willow's ear shot upward. That wasn't random. It was directional, purposeful. Wolves notifying each other of movement. And the movement wasn't prey. It was the poacher. She pressed her head closer to Kai, steadying her breath so he wouldn't absorb her fear. But fear, wild and electric, pulsed through her skin. Wolves hunting on one side, a human with a rifle on the other, and between them, hidden in a small den carved into the cold stone, rested a cub who didn't understand why the world wanted to swallow him. Willow lifted her head and crept toward the entrance, her steps silent as falling frost. She peered outside. Nothing. The man had vanished from her view. The wolves had quieted. The silence grew heavy, too heavy. Willow stepped forward, sniffing the wind. The scents came mixed. Wolf, human, fear. But beneath those stronger notes, something else drifted faintly along the breeze. Lion. Willow tensed. She had grown familiar with Kai's scent, but this one was older, deeper, tinged with strength. An adult lion. And it was far, far away, but real. Not a memory, not a phantom of Kai's past. A surviving member of his pride, or a wandering male drawn by the storm's chaos. Willow stepped fully outside now, the cold forgotten. If an adult lion had survived whatever tragedy shattered Kai's family, it could mean many things. Some dangerous, some hopeful, some unknown. But all of them mattered. Behind her, Kai let out a small, anxious mewl. She turned back immediately, lowering her head to reassure him. He pressed his face into her fur, shaking softly. The fear in him was new. He felt the tension, even if he didn't understand its source. Willow wrapped her body around him again, holding him until the tremor passed. She remained alert, listening to every shift in the forest. The threat of wolves, the shadow of a poacher, the scent of an adult lion, the fragility of a bond she never expected to form. Everything was changing, and deep in her instincts, Willow understood that the world outside the den was closing in fast. Kai was no longer just a cub learning to survive. He was a cub being hunted. Tomorrow, she would have to make a choice, one that could pull her away from Kai or draw her into a danger she couldn't outrun. But tonight, she guarded him with every breath in her body.
The next morning arrived quietly, but the quiet wasn't comforting. It was the kind that pricked at Willow's fur, made her ears twitch at every subtle shift in the wind. Somewhere in the forest, a predator was moving. Not the hungry, restless motion of wolves searching for easy prey, but something heavier, slower, purposeful. Willow stepped outside the den with deliberate caution, leaving Kai nestled deep in the pine bedding. The sunlight spilled across the ridge, but even its warmth couldn't soften the tension building in her chest. She tested the wind with a low lift of her chin. The air carried the familiar scent of melting snow, the sharper musk of wolves, and faint traces of human metal drifting from the south. But underneath all of it, like a thread weaving through every layer of scent, she caught it again. Lion. Stronger this time. She had expected the scent to fade or shift with the storm, but it lingered, steady and unmistakable. Instinct told her the owner of that scent was moving, circling, searching, perhaps confused, perhaps dangerous. Adult lions rarely traveled alone unless something had driven them from their pride, or unless they were following the trail of one. Willow turned back toward the den. Kai was pushing himself upright, blinking sleep from his eyes. He greeted her with a soft, rumbling chirp that warmed the cold edges of the morning. She nudged him toward the entrance, and he followed, stepping gingerly into the sunlit snow. The light caught his golden coat, revealing how much healthier he looked now. His fur fluffier, his steps firmer, his eyes brighter. But the soft innocence in him wouldn't last much longer. Today, the world was going to demand more of him. Willow walked ahead, guiding him along a small ledge where the wind was gentle. Kai followed closely until a new scent hit him, so sudden and potent that he froze mid-step. His head lifted, his nostrils flared, his entire body stiffened. Willow recognized the change instantly. It wasn't fear. It was instinct. Kai opened his mouth slightly, tasting the air like she had shown him. His breath came quicker, and a low, unfamiliar rumble vibrated in his throat, a primitive sound buried deep in his bloodline. Willow stepped in front of him, blocking his path and lowering her head, urging him to stay back. Kai blinked at her, confused, the tiny rumble fading beneath the uncertainty of her posture. The scent grew stronger. Kai took a step around her. Willow pushed him back, gently but firmly. This time he protested, letting out a frustrated squeak that sounded more lion than anything he had ever made before. His tail flicked, and he tried again to move past her, driven by an instinct older than memory. Willow tensed, her heart pounding a warning through her body. If an adult lion was truly near, Kai's reaction could betray them both.
Before she could redirect him, a low groan resonated from the forest below, a deep, resonant sound that rolled across the valley like distant thunder. Kai froze. Willow's fur bristled. A lion's call. Not a roar, just a territorial expression, the kind an adult male used when testing the ground of unfamiliar land. Kai's breathing hitched.
His body swayed, caught between terror and recognition. Instinct urged him forward, while Willow urged him back. He whimpered, confused, pleading in a way that pierced her heart. She nudged him again, pushing him toward the safety of the den. This time, he resisted more strongly, planting his paws in the snow. His tail stiffened, his tiny jaws parted in a shaky attempt at a roar, but only a ragged gasp came out. Another lion call echoed, closer. Kai yelped, scrambling backward until he collided with Willow's chest. She wrapped her tail around him and forced him into the shadows beneath her body. His heartbeat fluttered against her fur. Willow shifted her weight, lowering herself protectively over him as she scanned the ridge. Then, movement. A shape emerged far down the slope. Large, muscular, moving with a heavy, deliberate stride. Willow narrowed her eyes, focusing past the bright glare of sunlight on the snow. The figure paused near a fallen tree, head lifted, nostrils testing the air. A lion. An adult male. His coat was duller than Kai's, streaked with mud and patches of snow, but unmistakably powerful. His mane was still growing, not full, but thick enough to show maturity. He turned, pacing slowly across the slope. His tail flicked as he sniffed the air again. Searching. Willow pressed her body more firmly against Kai, hoping instinct, or fear, would keep him silent. But the cub's breathing quickened, his small body trembling with the conflict raging inside him. The male lion's head snapped upward. He stared straight toward their ridge. Willow ducked low, pushing Kai behind her with a swift, forceful motion. She didn't breathe. Kai pressed into her chest, shaking violently. The lion took a few slow steps uphill, as though drawn by something he couldn't quite place. Then, crack echoed from the opposite direction. A tree branch? A falling rock? No. A gunshot. The lion bolted, sprinting into the trees with the raw speed of instinct. Birds exploded from the canopy, wolves howled somewhere below, and a second shot rang out, closer than the first. Willow grabbed Kai by the scruff and dragged him into the den before the echo faded. Inside the darkness, Kai whimpered, burying his face against her fur. She curled around him, shielding him from every sound, every vibration. Outside, the forest erupted into chaos. Wolves barking, snow crashing, humans shouting, trees snapping under the weight of fleeing animals. The world had changed in a single moment. And Willow understood, with a sharp clarity that cut deep into her bones, that Kai wasn't simply a cub learning to survive anymore. He was a cub whose very existence had drawn the attention of lions, wolves, and poachers. He was no longer hidden. He was being hunted.
Evening crept across the mountains slowly, laying long blue shadows between the trees and turning the snow into a cold, shimmering mirror. The chaos of the day had settled into an eerie stillness. No more gunshots, no more lion calls, no more wolves snarling through the trees. But the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was the silence that comes after fear has swept through a place and hidden itself in the corners. Inside the den, Kai lay pressed tightly against Willow's side. His breathing had steadied, but his eyes remained wide, reflecting the fading daylight with an unease Willow had never seen in him before. Every small sound outside, the shifting snow, the soft crack of ice, the distant rustle of wind, made him flinch. He had heard the lion. He had heard the gun, and something inside him had changed. Willow gently touched her nose to his cheek,
humming softly to calm him. He pushed his head under her chin, searching for comfort. She responded the only way she knew how, with warmth, with stillness, with presence. But even as she soothed him, she felt the truth tightening inside her chest. It wasn't just wolves anymore, or the storm, or the cold, or even the poacher. The appearance of an adult lion had shattered whatever fragile safety she'd built around Kai. If the male lion was related to him, he might return. If he wasn't, the threat was even greater. And the poacher, drawn by the chaos of the disrupted pride, wouldn't leave without taking something from these mountains. Kai was no longer simply in danger. He was now the center of the danger. Willow rose quietly, stepping toward the den entrance. Kai tried to follow, but she nudged him back firmly. He let out a soft grunt of protest, but he obeyed, sinking reluctantly into the bedding. Willow peeked outside. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the trees, but beneath the stillness she smelled movement. Two scents weaving through the cold air, wolves sweeping the lower ridges. Human scent lingering near the south trail, slow but persistent. The lion's scent had faded, but not vanished. 3 predators, 3 threats, 1 cub. Willow's breath fogged the air as she sank back inside the den. She paced once, twice, listening to Kai's soft breaths. Each time she passed the cub, he lifted his head as if afraid she would leave. She paused beside him, lowering her head until her forehead touched his. He relaxed a little, but not completely. She understood why.
He had heard his own species for the first time, and he had heard death chasing them. How could a cub understand that contradiction? Willow settled near him, though she didn't lie down. Her body remained tense, coiled gently like a bow that had not yet chosen whether to release or hold. Instinct pulled her in 2 directions: stay and protect him herself, or take him closer to the lion's scent, toward the one creature who might truly know what to do. But both paths held danger. If she stayed, the poacher might find them. If she left, the wolves might intercept them. If she tried to reunite him with the lion, she didn't know what the male's reaction would be. Lions weren't predictable, especially not solitary males, especially not around a cub. Kai shifted, crawling toward her, tucking himself beneath her chest. His body trembled faintly, not from cold, but uncertainty. Willow curled around him in response, and for a moment they simply breathed together. One heartbeat small and uncertain, the other strong and steady. But even as she held him, something inside her cracked. She could protect him from wolves. She could protect him from storms. She could even, perhaps, protect him from hunger or cold or a lone rival lynx. But she could not protect him from what he was. Kai's instincts were awakening. His species was calling. No matter how deeply he trusted her, he would one day understand that he was not meant to be a shadow in the trees or a whisper in the snow. He was meant for something else, something bigger, wilder, louder. Willow lifted her head again, eyes narrowing with a new resolve. She would not abandon him, but she could not keep him hidden forever. Not now, not after today. Kai lifted his head too, sensing the shift in her. He pressed his forehead into her leg, and she bent to nuzzle him once more. He answered with a small, shaky purr. She hummed low in her throat, a sound laced with sadness and determination. Then she stood. Kai tried to follow again, but she gently blocked him with her body. Not yet, not tonight. She walked to the entrance and gazed down the slope. The lion's scent drifted faintly on the wind. She didn't know if he would return. She didn't know if she should lead Kai to him or wait for fate to bring them together again. But a choice would come soon, and she would have to make it. Behind her,
Kai let out a soft cry, a small, questioning note that made her chest tighten. She turned back, and for a long moment they simply stared at each other. He needed her, but he also needed something she would never be able to give. Willow returned to him, wrapped her body around his, and rested her head on top of his tiny shoulder. Tonight, she would hold him close. Tomorrow, she would decide his future.
Morning came clear and sharp. The sky, a pale, endless blue, stretched over the white shoulders of the Sawtooths. The storm that had tried to erase life from the mountains was now only a memory written in deep drifts and broken branches. But inside the den, another kind of storm had settled. Quiet, heavy, pressing up against Willow's ribs. Kai was awake before she was. She opened her eyes to find him sitting at the mouth of the den, his back to her, golden fur outlined against the snow. He wasn't playing with a branch or pouncing on shadows like he usually did. He was still, listening. Willow rose and stepped silently to his side. The wind was gentle, but it carried something unmistakable. From the far side of the valley came a sound that was both beautiful and terrible. A full lion's call, deep and resonant, rolling through the forest like a drumbeat. Kai's ears lifted. His body leaned forward. His tail, so often clumsy and expressive, now hung low and focused. The sound wasn't just noise to him, it was language. It was memory he'd never been taught, but somehow knew. Willow watched his profile, those growing paws, that strong little chest, the hint of mane beginning to roughen the fur along his neck. He wasn't the trembling bundle she had pulled from the snow anymore. He was a young lion, on the edge of becoming something she could not follow. Another call answered the first, then another. Not one lion, a group. A pride. Kai made a small sound in his throat, something between a question and a longing. He glanced up at Willow, eyes wide, as if asking permission to feel what he felt. She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she stepped out of the den. She didn't push him back this time, didn't block him with her body or herd him into the shadows. She walked forward, slow and deliberate, and let him choose whether to follow. He did. Not with the careless bounce of a cub chasing a scent, but with the careful, almost reverent steps of someone walking toward a truth. They moved along the ridge, Willow leading them down a path she had avoided before. Each step took them closer to the valley floor, where the forest opened into a wide, snow-covered meadow. The lion sense grew stronger. Female, male, young, old, all woven together into a tapestry that made Kai's breath come faster. At the edge of the trees, Willow stopped. In the center of the meadow, half shadowed by a stand of pines, they saw them. 4 lions. 2 lionesses, powerful and poised. 1 older male, mane heavy and dark, lying with the ease of a king who had seen many winters. And beside him, smaller but growing, the younger male from before, his mane fuller now, his body hardened by survival. One of the lionesses lifted her head, nostrils flaring. Her gaze turned toward the ridge, toward them.
Kai froze. Willow felt his whole body tremble, a mixture of fear, awe, and recognition. The lioness rose slowly, not in alarm, but in a kind of cautious wonder. She moved forward a few steps, ears pricked, tail low. Willow's muscles tightened. Every instinct told her to retreat, to snatch Kai by the scruff and vanish back into the safety of rock and shadow. But she didn't move. She forced herself to stay rooted to the snow, her heart pounding so loudly she could feel it in her paws. Kai took 1 step forward, then another. His paws left deep impressions in the snow, his body caught between the mountain that had raised him and the plains blood that called him home.
He looked back at Willow, eyes shining with a confusion she understood too well. The ache of belonging to two worlds and knowing you could only choose one. She did not call him back. She held his gaze, steady, unflinching. "Go," her stillness said. "Go before I no longer have the strength to let you." Kai swallowed, chest rising and falling. Then he turned and walked down the slope. The lioness met him halfway across the meadow. She lowered her head, nose brushing his face, his neck, his shoulders. She circled him, smelling the lynx, the snow, the storm, the strange life he'd lived. For a moment, something like confusion flickered in her eyes. Then it softened into something older, deeper. Recognition. Her cub, lost in the blizzard, alive in front of her. She nuzzled him with a tenderness Willow knew by feel, even from a distance. The older male rose, approaching with slow authority. He studied Kai, not as a threat, but as a piece of his world returned from the teeth of winter. Kai accepted their touch, their scent, their world. But even as he pressed his head into the lioness's chest, he kept glancing back up the slope, back to the small shape watching from the trees, back to the lynx who had pulled him from the snow and taught him how to walk where no lion should have walked. Willow stood straight as her small frame allowed. The wind tugged at her fur, but she didn't flinch. Kai took a hesitant step away from the pride, muscles trembling. The lioness let him go, just for a moment. He climbed a few strides back up the hill until she could see her clearly. For the first time, a sound left his throat that wasn't a whimper or a cub's call. It wasn't as deep as a full-grown roar, but it wasn't small either. It rolled across the snow, rough and unsteady, carrying gratitude and grief in equal measure. It was his first true lion's call, and he aimed it at her. Willow's ears folded back, stung by the sheer emotion in the sound. Something inside her ached so fiercely she had to dig her claws into the snow to stay standing. She lowered her head, not as prey, not as subordinate, but in a gesture of respect only another mother would understand. Then she did the hardest thing she had ever done. She turned away. She did not look back as Kai rejoined the pride, did not watch as they folded him into their circle and led him away through the trees. She walked along the ridge until the scent of lions faded behind her, swallowed by sharp pine and cold stone. Only when she reached a high outcrop, a place where the mountains opened wide around her, did she stop. She sat down, letting the wind rake its cold fingers through her fur. The ache in her chest remained, but beneath it, something else began to grow. Quiet pride. Not for what she had kept, but for what she had given. Weeks passed. The snow line slowly retreated up the slopes. The valley floor grew patches of brown and green as earth re-emerged from winter's grip. Elk trails returned. Birds filled the air with cautious songs. Ranger Emma watched all it through the lens of her camera traps and binoculars. She reviewed footage of a lynx traveling alone again, moving with a new steadiness in her step. She watched a lion pride passing across the far ridges, a younger male among them who walked with a curious mix of mountain caution and lion confidence. She never saw them together on her screens. Not then. But the mountains kept their own records. One late afternoon, when the world glowed copper under a sinking sun, Willow rested on a ledge overlooking a distant meadow.
The air was still, the sky clear. In the valley below, shapes moved, familiar in a way her bones recognized before her eyes did. Lions. The pride had grown stronger. The older male walked at the rear now, pacing slowly. The lionesses flanked the sides. And near the front strode a younger male, larger now, shoulders broad, mane beginning to frame his face. Kai. Even from this distance she knew him. Not by scent, not by sound, but the way he paused at every rise in the land to look, to listen, to test the wind, the way she had taught him to do. As the pride crossed an open stretch, Kai stopped. His head turned, toward the ridges, toward her. Willow did not move, scarcely breathing. The distance between them was immense, but for a moment it felt small, like the inside of a den shared on a deadly winter night. They stared across the empty air, neither calling out, neither moving closer. They didn't need to. Kai lifted his head and let out a low, steady call. It wasn't a roar meant to mark territory or challenge rivals. It was softer, shorter, shaped by something gentler. A sound that didn't ask for anything, didn't demand. It simply said, "I remember." The wind carried it up the slope, thinning it, but not enough to erase its meaning. Willow's heart steadied. She lowered her head once, slowly, in that same quiet bow. Then she turned her gaze back to the horizon, letting him go all over again. Down below, Kai rejoined his pride. Up above, a lynx remained what she had always been, a small, quiet shadow between stone and sky. But now she carried something different within her. A thread stretched across the mountains, connecting her to a lion who no longer needed her, yet would never truly leave her behind. Somewhere in the middle of that invisible line between snow and sun, fear and love, survival and sacrifice, their story lived on. Not as a tale of a lynx who kept a lion, but as the memory of a lynx who saved one, and then was brave enough to let him belong to the world he was born for.